to be in charge of the ANC's election campaign, we were inspired with great wisdom. We knew precisely as officials what we were doing, and you have been doing extremely well. And as a bonus, I'm going to ask everyone to give you a rousing round of applause. Deputy President of the African National Congress, Comrade David Mabuza, the national officials of the African National Congress, former President of the ANC and the Republic, Comrade Jacob Gadleyihlekisa Zuma, members of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, leaders of the Alliance, and at my table, I'm privileged to be sitting with the President of COSATU, Comrade Zingiswa Losi, leaders of the ANC Women's League and leaders of the ANC Youth League, the ANC Veterans League, as well as MKMVA, members of the Cabinet, Comrade Sihle Zikalala, the Chair of the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC in KZN, and Acting Premier of KZN, Premiers from other provinces who are here, MECs, Prince Mboniseni Zulu, coming from the royal house of this province, Kumkani Zwelonke from the Eastern Cape, traditional leaders of our people who are here. Allow me also, comrades, to acknowledge the presence here this evening of our distinguished international guests who have joined us for this evening, representatives from the MPLA of Angola, representatives of SWAPO from Namibia, representatives of ZANU-PF of Zimbabwe, representatives of BDP of Botswana, and we have a bonus because we also have BNF from Botswana as well. Representatives and leadership of the ABC from Lesotho, representatives of Fatah from Palestine, Your Excellencies, ambassadors who are also here, distinguished guests, comrades and friends, and ladies and gentlemen. Your presence here tonight reminds us of the warm fraternal relations, particularly those who have come from various countries, the relations that exist between our peoples, relations that were forged in the crucible of struggle. Allow me also, comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen, to acknowledge the presence of two of South Africa's greatest literary figures, Don Matera Bradon Matera and Mongane Walisirote. We are grateful that you have chosen to share this occasion with us, particularly in a year that marks the centenary of the birth of cultural luminaries like Eskia Mphahlele, Noni Jabavu, Peter Abrams, Sibusiso Nyembezi. Let us use this year to celebrate the lives of South Africans who told the story of our people through their own memoirs, through their writings, and through scholarship. Allow me to use this opportunity to also extend our congratulations to two other outstanding South Africans, Desiree Ellis and Thembi Kgatlana, for being named Women's Coach of the Year and Women's Player of the Year, respectively, by the Confederation of African Football. Balula, this is the Confederation of African Football. Hayi le Confederation ephuma lapha elokishini la ukhulele khona. Your achievements and those of your fellow sportswomen and men are indeed an inspiration to the whole nation of our country. It is a great honor and a wonderful privilege to welcome you here this evening as we prepare to launch our manifesto for the 2019 elections. The National Executive Committee, after approving the manifesto that was carefully drafted following the inputs from a whole range of people in our country, decided that prior to launching the manifesto tomorrow, we should be able, at this gala dinner here, just to give the guests who are here a preview of some of the issues that we are going to cover and release in our manifesto. The manifesto itself is in two parts. One, it is quite an extensive document of more than 10,000 words, covering the issues that are of greatest concern to our people. And the other part is a shortened version which will enable people to be able to read it and assimilate it on the go. During the course of this whole week, we, as the leaders of the Alliance, members of the National Executive Committee, members of the Provincial Executive Committee here in KZN and various regional committees, have been traversing the length and the breadth of this beautiful province, engaging our people in the celebration of the 107th anniversary of the formation of the African National Congress. This has provided us with an opportunity to reflect on a proud and distinguished history of struggle and service, and has also enabled us to honor those brave men and women who fought side by side for the freedoms that we enjoy today. We were able, joined by members of the National Executive Committee, also joined by members of the Provincial Executive Committee, including former President Jacob Zuma, to go to the gravesite of the first president of the African National Congress, to go and pay our homage, but also to give him a report of how far our beautiful country has gone since President Nelson Mandela went there to report to him that we had achieved our freedom. We are fortunate that we have had a galaxy of outstanding leaders like John Langalibale Letube, Chief Albert Lutuli, Mama Albertina Sisulu, Charlotte Makleke, Moses Mabhida, Dorothy Nyembe, Harry Gwala, Walter Sisulu, Lillian Goy, Nelson Mandela, and many others. We look to our past in terms of what we as the African National Congress stand for, but we also look at our past leaders, because this defines us, but it also helps to define our present. It enables us not only to understand the path we have traveled, but also helps us navigate the path that lies ahead for us. It is from the past that we draw our lessons, our guidance, and our inspiration. And it is from those leaders who have come before us that we are able to draw deep inspiration that should light the way to the future for us. The past talks about our resilience, unity, and determination to serve the people of South Africa. There are many who believe that the ANC tends to dwell too much on the past and that we spend much of our time focusing on what we've done in government since 1994. Criticisms that are leveled are that such obsessions with the past tend, as other people see it, they tend to see them as scapegoats that shift blame and thus hinder the path to meaningful progress. It is also argued by those that focusing on what the ANC government has done in the past 25 years is meaningless against the backdrop of the challenges that face our people today. While such criticisms are not to be ignored, we cannot escape history, but more particularly the achievements that have so fundamentally changed the lives of millions of South Africans since the dawn of democracy and since this country has been governed by the African National Congress. We believe that we should not bury the past 25 years of achievement. The treasures of history are too often buried in antiquity. They are often lost in oblivion, and at times they are forgotten. Reflecting on what we have done in the past enables us to place meaning as well as context to our current experience and challenges. This past that we should reflect on allows us to interrogate the factors that have an impact on the lived reality of South Africans, but more particularly the poor, the vulnerable, and it empowers us to be effective agents in molding the events of tomorrow. It gives us a tool to critically examine the tapestries that have been woven by the threads of time past. This is summed up beautifully by Sankofa, the metaphorical symbol of the Akan people of Ghana, often depicted as a mythical bird that constantly twists its beak behind itself to bring forth an egg from its back. The motif is loosely translated as, "Go back and fetch it." It is often associated with the aphorism that is a pithy observation which contains a general truth that it is not wrong to learn from hindsight. This Sankofa process urges us to reach back in time and seek knowledge from the ways of the past. It also encourages us to learn from the blunders and learn from the triumphs in order to reclaim what was lost and journey forward. This is about having a backward glance at yesterday in a bid to guide the present, but more importantly, to herald the future. We South Africans remain unmistakably products of our country's long and complex history. We should look back at the past 25 years of our democracy to understand our story. In understanding this story of ours, we create a new story. John Clarke sums it up very well when he says, history, essentially the path that we have traversed, is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of the day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. The role of history and what we have done in the past is to tell people what they have been, where they have been, what they are, and where they are. The most important role that history plays is that it has the function of telling a people where they still must go and what they still must be. The relationship of history to its people is the same as the relationship between a mother and her child. As we gather tomorrow at Moses Mabhida Stadium, we will also be reflecting on the past 25 years of achievement of democracy in our country. We will be celebrating the attainment of our freedom after centuries of oppression, exploitation, and dispossession. We will be celebrating the remarkable progress we have made to improve the lives of the people of our country, particularly the poor and the vulnerable. We will also be reaffirming our commitment to human rights and the dignity of our people. We will reaffirm things such as the freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion, freedom of language, and fundamental elements of building our nation. It is our hope that during this year, South Africans will take some time to engage in a meaningful and critical conversation about the past 25 years of democracy and reflect on what it means, what we have achieved, where we fell short, and also begin to postulate into the future in terms of what we need to do. There is much evidence, both anecdotal and statistical, to indicate that we have achieved much as a country since 1994. So we will turn to the past 25 years to find clues about the current condition of South Africa. We must look back to see how the country and its people have been socially, politically, economically, and spatially molded, affected, and impacted upon. But this is not just a journey into the past. It is also a journey into the future. because we must also use this moment as we reflect on 25 years to begin to look into the next 25 years in terms of where we want our country to be in the next 25 years. One of the great successes of the breakthrough we achieved in 1994 is that we were able to set up institutions of democracy, our parliament, provincial legislatures, local government councils, the executive at all levels, the judiciary, Chapter 9 institutions, our central bank, a free press, the existence of non-governmental organizations, for example, a free and a strong trade union movement, and many others. All these institutions that underpin our democracy, we can safely say today, they are in place, they are durable, they function, and they are propelling South Africa forward. And they make our country not a failed state, but a successful country that we are. We have the most progressive constitution in the world, and we can be proud about that. A constitution that promotes fairness, justice, and the rule of law, and which enshrines the rights and values which all of us as South Africans embrace. Our judiciary is constitutionally independent, our media is free and fiercely outspoken, civil society formations are vigilantly robust, and we have an active and vocal citizenry. These are all critical factors in the success of any society, and we must spare no effort in preserving and strengthening them. It is these institutions that have made possible the great strides made in improving the lives of South Africa's people. Kilebogile Leapile of the South African Institute of Race Relations and her colleagues reflected on the great strides that we have made over the past 2 decades. And she said, over the past decade, the story about the great success we have achieved was lost. The tone and inflection of media and other reporting and activist commentary became predominantly negative, often at times with good reason, but we became concerned that balance was being lost and that amidst their fears and frustrations, South Africans would come to believe that they have failed in the main at what so many people had bravely set out to do and achieve in 1994. They at the South African Institute of Race Relations say that they felt that the nature of the climate of public opinion was such that it was necessary to produce a document that would remind South Africans and those who also watch us from abroad that despite our troubles, despite our challenges, we are also a country in which a lot has gone right. A country in which the majority of black and white people have found a way to work together to make the future a better place. It is against this backdrop and the testimonies of millions of South Africans that we can say without any shadow of doubt and with a great deal of confidence that we have seen significant improvements in the lives of millions of South Africans, and this is borne out by a range of socio-economic indicators that speak to how the lives of many South Africans have been positively impacted and how the lives of many of our people have improved and have changed. That is gospel truth. That is the reality of our situation. Now, a few of these indicators will suffice. In 1994, only 3 out of every 10 South Africans had electricity in their homes. Now, today, namhlanje, 8 out of every 10 South Africans have electricity in their homes. Since 1994, 4.7 million houses have been built, benefiting as many, and underline, as many as 14 million South Africans who live in our country. The matric pass rate has increased from 50% in 1994 to 78.2% today in 2018. But the most significant change that is underway is how we are undoing the historical negative impact of apartheid education, which was designed to entrench the worst educational outcomes in our schools in the townships as well as in the rural areas. This year's result showcases changing statistics that indicate a clear shift in the positive performance of the schools in the townships and in the rural areas, which now produce much better results as opposed to the more privileged schools when it comes to matric pass rates with a bachelor's degree. The tide has turned. The National Students Fund Aid Scheme has increased. And let's listen carefully because sometimes we are not even aware of these statistics. NSFAS has increased from 70 million rand in 1994 to nearly 15 billion rand in 2018. In 1994, we had 347,000 students in institutions of higher learning. Today we have well over 1 million young people being educated in our institutions of higher learning. That is progress. More than 4.5 million South Africans who are living with HIV receive antiretroviral treatment, doubling from 2.4 million in 2014. And life expectancy in our country fell sharply in the decade after 1994 as the AIDS pandemic wreaked havoc on our people. By 2005, it reached a low point of 53.5 years. However, it has now gone up to a level of 64 years, which is a phenomenal achievement in health terms. And this is due to the policies that have been pursued by the government of our country. The South African Institute of Race Relations says one of the best measures of measuring whether there is progress in a country is to see whether a middle class is emerging and whether a middle class is growing. And they say that one of the best measures to measure middle class status and living standards is mobility. The number of motor cars. I would never have thought that you could measure participation of people in the middle class through motor vehicles, but they say motor vehicles increased from 3.8 million in 1999 to 7.1 million in 27, or by 85%. They say this increase reflects broadly an increase in the number of middle-class households and aligns with a series of other measures indicative of middle-class expansion. There are many other factors that we can look at to illustrate how much we have made progress as an ANC government and as a country. But the most compelling evidence is in the stories of the people we have encountered during the course of this week as we went through the breadth and the length of this province. We've met people from across the province of KZN, of all races, of all walks of life, who have been able to testify about how their lives have improved. They have wonderful stories about how democracy and the social transformation that has been engendered has changed their circumstances and those of their families. But truth be told, some tell of harrowing stories about what has not changed, about life with a house but with no income, about life with electricity but no land, about many mouths to feed but only one old age pension. The Deputy President was telling me earlier that as he was going around the province, he encountered poverty. He saw how our people are still suffering and struggling to make ends meet. The people of our country know only too well that though we have achieved much, there is so much more that still needs to be done. For 25 years, they have placed their trust in the African National Congress, knowing that it has the will as well as the means to transform the country and meet the needs of our people, knowing that it is the only formation that is able to unite such a broad spectrum of society behind a common program of change. The people of South Africa have also observed how in recent times, they say, their movement, their ANC lost its way, as the effects of factionalism, corruption, and patronage eroded the values and betrayed the principles of this great movement. They observed the effects of state capture and institutions that were undermined and how corruption set in. But more worse, how investor confidence started to decline. And so they spoke out. They voiced their concern and their anger. As the African National Congress, we can say without any equivocation that we have heard these cries, we have listened to the pleas of our people, and most importantly, we have acted and continue to act decisively to correct our mistakes and also to address our weaknesses. And we can say that we have now entered a period of renewal, a period of rebuilding. We have taken steps to reclaim our heritage, our integrity, our credibility, and we are taking steps to reclaim the confidence that the people have always had in us, both as a movement and also as a government. We are confronting the challenges that have arisen in the recent past. Challenges such as corruption, state capture, and we are working to restore the credibility of public institutions. A number of public institutions that were weakened, we are working to restore their credibility, such as SARS, the National Prosecuting Authority, the South African Police Service, and others. We have made important changes to the boards and senior management of several state-owned enterprises, and we are rooting out corruption, and we are working to ensure that our SOEs are financially stable and that in the end they meet the needs of society. We have also placed economic growth and job creation at the center of our efforts, mobilizing all social partners behind an economic recovery plan and embarking on an ambitious investment drive and job creation. The manifesto that we are going to launch tomorrow builds on the work that has been done over the past 25 years and sustains the momentum of the last year. Our manifesto is a coherent as well as a bold plan for a better life for all, addressing the persistent realities of unemployment, inequality, as well as poverty. Our manifesto is informed by the Freedom Charter, the National Development Plan, and by the lived experience of our people. Our manifesto is about transforming the economy so that the economy of our country serves the people of South Africa. It builds also on the recently announced stimulus package, and it sets out key commitments to change the structure of our economy. It also identifies the fundamental challenge that too many of our people are unemployed, particularly among the young people of our country, and that there are too many jobs that are lowly paid and are also insecure. Our plan for more jobs, decent jobs, takes forward the outcomes of the Presidential Job Summit. Our manifesto calls on the public sector, as well as the private sector, our communities and government to work together to build a successful economy and bridge the gap between skills and the labor market, including the implementation of mass apprenticeship opportunities for young men and women. Our plan of broadening ownership promotes mixed ownership of the economy with a focus on extending worker ownership as well. We plan to carry out a sustainable, accelerated land reform program that unlocks the participation and ownership in the agricultural production, that also advances food security and helps to reverse the apartheid spatial separation of our cities and our towns. And of course, some of the measures that we are going to use to address this age-old problem, which we regard as the original sin that was committed in our country is to advance land reform through the expropriation of land without compensation. We will also address the other challenge of how our economy is being held back by the existence and the operation of monopolies that have excessive economic concentration in our economy, but monopolies that also abuse their dominance and that inhibits the growth and the structure of our economy. We will do this through a more effective competition policy and will open up the economy to participation by small and medium enterprises, emerging cooperatives, township and village enterprises. Investment is the fuel that propels the growth of any economy. We have an investment plan to ensure that our economy grows at a significantly faster rate and creates jobs on a far greater scale. We will mobilize funding from the public and private sources for more roads, for more schools, for more health facilities, water and sanitation infrastructure, as well as transport networks, ICT systems, and energy generation and distribution capacity. The manifesto that we will release tomorrow also outlines an industrial strategy to accelerate the expansion of our manufacturing capacity. It also increases investment, but ensures that we can sustain decent jobs. We will also support and expand small enterprises and co-ops. We will continue to give priority to education and skills development as we work towards universal access, particularly in early childhood development facilities, improving the quality of primary education and strengthening higher education and vocational training. And over the next 5 years, we are determined to make progress towards quality universal health coverage through the National Health Insurance, the NHI. Our manifesto covers a range of measures to improve the quality of the public health sector so that we can make it the backbone of a future unified national health system. We will also invest in sustainable human settlements that help transform the special legacy of apartheid and build a more inclusive society. And we will continue to maintain and expand the social security system, because our intention is to protect the vulnerable and reduce poverty in our country. The manifesto, as you will see when you finally get a copy of it, which will also be online, outlines how we will step up the fight against corruption throughout society and safeguard the integrity of the state. We will also focus more attention on building a capable and developmental state by reorganizing the way government interacts with the people, how government itself functions, but we will also be improving public accountability and responsiveness to the needs of the people and rebuild the local government system. From tomorrow, every ANC leader, a public representative, member and volunteer will be focusing on spreading the message of our manifesto through the length and the breadth of our country. And one can say we are the first ones to go out with a manifesto of such great weight, and we know soon others will follow in our suit. And they always wait, and I suspect they wait because they want to see what the African National Congress is going to say in its manifesto, and some of them will be copying what the ANC will be saying in its manifesto. And as we spread the message of our manifesto, we will visit every city, every town, every village, every township, and every suburb. And we will also go into as many homes as possible and every workplace to spread the good message and the good plan that the ANC is putting to the nation. We will present to the people of this country our vision for a new and better South Africa, a vision that derives its value and its power from the fact that it was written together with the people of our country. Contained in the pages of our manifesto are the suggestions, the aspirations, and the expectations of many people with whom we have interacted over the last few months. It is a true people's manifesto to build a people's economy, to build a successful South Africa. It is a people's manifesto to build a nation that places the needs of the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized at its center. Tonight, we call on all of you to join us in being part of this great journey. Together, we ended apartheid. Together, we also crafted a democratic constitution. Together, we began the task of transforming our economy and improving the lives of our people. We now want us to work together to realize the promise of a better life for all our people. I go back to what this fine lady, Kilebogile Liepile, of the South African Institute of Race Relations said once again, articulating what has been achieved over the 25 years and also what has been the key driver of these achievements. She says, our sense is that far more has been achieved in South Africa over the past 25 years than many people understand. There is a lot to be proud of, and in no way is it true to say that South Africa is no better than it was in 1994. But she continues and says, or that South Africans have refused to work together to bring about change. This is a substantively better society to live in than it was in 1994, close quotes. She is correct in saying that much has been achieved, that South Africa is a better place today than it was in 1994, but more importantly, she is absolutely correct in saying that the key driver behind these achievements has been how South Africans have been able to find a way of working together to bring about the changes that we now enjoy today. This gives credence to our call, which is the rallying call of our manifesto, that let us work together to grow South Africa. This, in many ways, builds on what we said at the beginning of last year, when we made the Tumamina call, many South Africans continue to respond warmly and positively to this Tumamina call. As one goes through the length and the breadth of the country, not that they say so when they see me as president, they feel it, they live it, and they are practicing it. Many South Africans are coming forward and saying, what is it that we can do for our country? What is it that we can do to move our country forward? And it is for that reason that we say, let us work together to grow South Africa. This, I believe, is a moment that presents us with the greatest opportunity, all of us as South Africans, to work together to take our country forward. I'd like all of you sitting here and many others throughout our country to join me as we move South Africa forward, working together to grow our country and to make sure that we realize the dreams that Nelson Mandela, John Langalibale Letube, Chief Albert Luthuli, Mama Albertina Sisulu, Mama Winnie Mandela, Lillian Ngoyi, and many others had. They had one dream, and one dream only, to make sure that South Africa becomes a country that is prosperous, non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic. We now have this moment, this great opportunity of holding hands and taking our country forward. Let us go and make South Africa the great country that it is bound to be. Thank you very much.
Amandla, Pata Ramaphosa, Pata, Ngena Ramaphosa, Ngena, Pata Kongolose, Pata, Amandla. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, that was our mouthpiece and the face of the African National Congress, great thinker, unifying force. President Ramaphosa present to you a preview of the manifesto, not insurrectionary phrase-mongering, but exactly what we are going to do, taking the country forward. Amanda Glondau. So the younger ones who will understand Munati Mpulai, because Munatiwo is about changing the lives of the people for the better. Thank you, Comrade President. And now we move to the second part of our program. Dinner will be served in the meantime. We move into the segment of uninterrupted music, album launch. We're going to have Lady Smith Black Mambazo here. We're going to have the theoretical play by Ezekiel Theatrical Projects, Lady Smith Black Mambazo, and Abatandwa, and many, many other songs. So you must be ready ngoba umoya wami uyavuma. Yeah, that's where we are going. The battleground, the ground forces are ready. We are ready, Comrade President. Moses Mabhida tomorrow, from tonight to tomorrow morning, will be full to capacity. Our people from all over have already arrived in Durban. So let's sit back and relax and watch this and give us a feedback later. Thank you very much. Amandla!
activities of South Africa, giving us the reasons and confidence to participate in the coming elections. You know why? Anything you got today, we do not form part of the democratic South Africa by mistake. Our history started long before 1994.
Our veins are protected from a generation that laid the foundation for a better South Africa that we live today.
We are the great-grandchildren of African kings and queens who fought against land dispossession and segregation. Of the mass movement, which took part in the defiance campaign against unjust law.
Of the mass movement that took part in the defiance campaign against unjust laws. I know to the darkness of the freedom chapter.
My being forms part of the tree. By the blood of Solomon Kalushi.
democratic country.